Hi, I'm Michael Depp, editor of TVNewsCheck, and this week I'm with Colette Winn, the VP of Strategy and Operations Creative Partnerships for NBCUniversal, and we are talking TV. Hello, Colette, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's very good to have you here. And I wanted to talk to you because this conversation is following up on an earlier one that I had on this podcast some weeks back with Evan Moore, who's the VP of Commerce Partnerships at NBCU, your colleague. At the time, we were talking about shoppable TV and what that idea was. So last week, NBCU launched a suite of new ad units for the company's Global One platform, which dovetails into that conversation I'd had. And so I wanted to continue that discussion into these new types of video advertising that streaming seems to be ushering in. And so what I'm hoping you can do is kind of take us through what these types are. I think this is ushering in a new era of advertising, and perhaps what advertisers are going to expect in terms of interactivity, what users may increasingly expect as they're encountering advertising on streaming, whether there's much more digital integration possible. So as a harbinger of the future, I think this might be quite a useful tour into some of these new units that you've got for all of broadcasters to take a look at. So to begin with, there's a common denominator among these 6 new ad types that you're offering in terms of, or is there a common denominator in terms of the new dimensions that they have?
I would say the common denominator is looking at the viewing experience. How can we improve the viewing experience and thus in tandem be able to have that impact for our clients? So it's really looking at, what can we do? The traditional spot can be dull and can be repetitive. It can be tuned out. Where are consumers starting to lose that focus? So how can we drive more meaning for our brands within our environment and do it in a way that our consumers are leaning in and it becomes an incredibly positive effect? So that would be the overall common denominator that I would say.
Okay, so why don't you guide us through each of these ads briefly in kind of a whistle-stop tour. The first one is at home shopping. How does that work?
Very cool. We actually just launched it yesterday for the first time with VW. This is where you're brought into an AR experience. You're doing it through your mobile. So you scan the code if you're watching on TV or connected TV. We program by device. If you're being served the commercial ad unit in Apple News or within the social environment, it's a click too. So again, it depends on what your environment is. You're immediately brought into this very immersive AR experience, and specifically painting the picture for VW, where you're able to look at the car, bring in dimensionalization, such as changing the color of the car, looking at the rims, changing the exterior, really building your own. They're promoting the ID4 in this case, building your own ID4, and then you're able to shop. So you have this extra layer of taking it full funnel, where it's not just, oh, this is really cool, but you can really bring the consumer down the purchase funnel within the experience itself. You tap a button to register for the ID4, or if it's for retail, you could buy the items. So if you're getting this virtual closet being literally delivered to you in your living room, wherever you're watching content, you can then go full funnel by being able to purchase those items. The cart experience come right into your mobile phone and have a checkout. So you can really do some very cool immersive experiential play with our consumers in a very smart way. So we lean sometimes on talent. In this particular instance, we're leaning on talent with Retta. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always need to be talent. It can just be.
Who is from Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
Okay. So this launches from a conventional spot ad, though, right? We see the QR code appear in a narrative spot ad, or
it can be a narrative spot ad. It could be conventional. It also could be unconventional, be launching from content. So we can look at in-show experiences. Okay. Where you can have that experience happening while you're watching content and have a secondary experience going through your mobile and have that turn shoppable literally at home, thus the name.
Right. Okay, so then you've got another kind of spot called Look Live.
Yeah. So what we have noticed over the past years is, brands really want to be part of a conversation. When the conversation breaks, how can their brand be meaningful? This is pulling all of the resources that we have within NBC Universal, creative partnerships, how we shoot content, how we traffic the spots, really pulling all of our teams together to put something on air within 36 hours. So go from shoot to on air and have that brand be part of a relevant conversation. Could be red carpet, it could be the volatile stock market with CNBC, so that you can put something like a JP Morgan, and I'm just painting the picture, nothing other than painting a picture, where they could be part of, this is our recommendation, or when we're doing this, we can be a valuable source of like opinions that we can share at that time. Or if there's a cultural moment, like I said, with the red carpet, you can be part of that moment in a fun way, because we're so quick to get you on air. You can be part of that conversation. You can put the brand at the epicenter.
So this is conception to on air in 36 hours?
Yep.
Have you got sort of an ad SWAT team to put this together then?
We do. We have a SWAT team. We're quick.
Okay. What about stay in show? That's another one.
Stay in show is looking at the canvas of the show. So when we're shooting the show, this is orchestrated. So let's just use the Real Housewives to paint a Bravo picture here. One of the Real Housewives is in New York. She goes into the cab. From the back of the cab, we could use the canvas of the set, the canvas being the cab itself, and then the storyline where she's looking at the back of the cab, the television screen in the back of the cab. Then we launch the 30-second creative from the cab itself. So it's bringing the brand into the storyline very lightly, but very appropriately, and being able to do it so that our viewers are then tuned in and leaned in. And it doesn't become, when we talked about at the beginning, where viewers can start to lose their focus. This is really a part where we retain that focus and bring them into the shows that they love in a very, like I said, a very clean, smart way. So it's just brought in a very natural place.
So it's like the person gets into the cab, there's the screen, and the commercial begins on that screen and then kind of eventually widens out and
Goes away.
Wow. So you're just sort of looking at what you've got in the canvas of the shot where you would insert a commercial, and then just looking for the opportunity to contextually launch something.
And it's also orchestrated. So in shoot, we can say, take an extra beat here. This is a really great place where we can launch a creative commercial from that place. It doesn't have to be just in a cab. It could be in someone's home, launching from a television screen. They could be going into a bar and coming from a screen there. You could look at our news difference, something from one of those screens. So it really can play into the environment. Our fans are obviously leaning into our content for a reason, and we want to bring our brands into that experience and have that be meaningful for their messaging resonating with our fans.
So the NBCU programs are now sort of shooting when they're planning to have their breaks. They're thinking about this now.
We would be thinking about it. We would be also pre-planning it.
Right.
It can work in different ways. It depends on what type of program it is, and then we'd be malleable to that type of shoot, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. What about interactive scripted commercial launch?
This is looking at a very cool graphic-based introduction to a brand. So this is going from, let's just use Telemundo and Hoydia. Hoydia has a logo lockup of Hoydia, and then you go in from Hoydia, you bring a brand into it. Let's say it's a coffee brand, or it's any type of a beauty brand, and you're bringing their logo or their key art into that logo movement, and then it's going right into commercial space.
Okay. All right.
Transition. It's like a graphic 2D, 3D transition. You're going from our content, bringing the brand into that, and then having that follow through into a 30-second spot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then finally, there's Take 15. What's that?
Take 15 is where you're leaning into our talent or leaning into graphic. So we could look at it a myriad of ways. One can be let's say a brand has more of a humorous tone. Let's look at our comedians across the wide swath of our premium content and pull a comedian in to be able to have a very funny joke leading into the brand spot. So it just can be a lean in moment. You're seeing our talent, they're saying something funny, they're saying something that's catching your eye, and then it's nicely tied to a brand creative. You could have a talent who's credible in the space. So let's say it's Jay Leno, who's an obvious car enthusiast. You have Jay Leno giving almost a 15-second, what I would call tap the mic moment before you go into a brand creative. So right in this particular instance, just kind of again, painting the picture, you have Jay Leno who talks about cars and incredible about the tires and what tires mean. And then you go right into a Michelin spot. So it's giving a credibility nod right into a brand's creative. And that's just a natural contextual tie-in. So it's just a smart pairing of like, hey, pay attention, because the talent that you know and love, the fans and the audiences, and have them have that lean-in moment to be able to pay attention to the ad.
So that might be a 30-second spot, and the first 15 is Jay Leno kind of not talking about Michelin per se. Again, this is of course theoretical, but he's just talking about tires. So 15 seconds of that spot is really him in a different context, and then it segues into the spot itself.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you could think about it, things like it could be kids. It could be really leaning into like that funny, honest humor that kids bring to the table, and looking at their talent across NBCUniversal, and have that then lead into a craft spot. It's just really marrying up the right tone, the right person, the right tonality to be able to, again, have that moment where we're saying, pay attention to this brand's ad. This is important, and you can really hear that message differently.
With some of these, where the ad is sort of stepping into the content of the show, or really like the handoff is happening inside of the content of the show itself, do you have concerns about viewers thinking that's intrusive, or do viewers say they like those segues, or both?
We have heard that they like it, that 78% appreciate commercial ads innovation ads over regular commercials. But more importantly, we're seeing about 88% remember the message of the brand. We're seeing very positive, and we take great care, because obviously it's a big concern, because if the commercial viewing experience isn't improved, that it's intrusive, you're going to get the tune out, then you're going to get the domino effect that this isn't helpful or positive for brands. And that's the antithesis of what we're working towards. So year after year, we do these custom research studies and really look at what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. We also have a significant test period before we launch these commercial innovation ad units, where we're really thinking through, does this work? Is this right? Does it feel positive? And when it doesn't, they get stripped and they go to the cutting room floor. And the ones that do move forward have been proven very, very positive and very, very effective. We are very careful not to bring too many into a season or too many into a time period. So we really think about frequency and care about how we space these out. We care about trust with our clients, and we have built up that trust for many years now, and being able to positively impact their brand and care about how we do it is incredibly important to us, and our brands do trust us. That's how we can get content up in 36 hours, because we have built that type of trust and the way we do it. We want it to be authentic to our fans. It would be a disservice to ourselves if we did something that felt jarring and wrong to our fans. So it benefits not just our clients that we're doing it in the right way, but also our audiences.
These were focus grouped, I'm sure, like mad as well. So where is this pointing to in terms? I imagine these are all major national advertisers that are obviously coming into these that will be your likely clients here in these spots. Do those advertisers, are they increasingly expecting more levels of sophistication, interactivity, digital components to any spot that they buy? Is that going to become sort of de rigueur, or is this sort of just the outer edge of something that may be the direction in which they move?
I think they have come to expect innovation from us. This is year 4, and we come back with, what are we doing? How are we moving the needle? We've made such a commitment at NBCUniversal to innovation, and that we're not going to stop innovating and bringing the new and next. I think that there's an appetite, obviously, for clients who are looking to stand out and want to do it. There are clients who are wanting to be a little bit more safer and see how things play out. They don't need to be first to market. in things, and then they're coming to the table maybe a little bit later after further case studies have been proven out on these ad units. But again, they've been proven effective year after year. So it is quite a trajectory of where we started in year 1 to where we are in year 4. I would say it falls somewhere in the middle. It's not necessarily that it is that it's an always on expectation, but there is an expectation of what are you bringing me that's different in your environment, because I know that's how you think.
So always wondering where this will percolate down to the level of local station groups. And first of all, the NBCU stations, are they going to have availability with these units? Is that right away, or?
It's right away. We can work because local is obviously right within our wheelhouse,
right,
as well as our Sky partnership in the global space. So we do think about local to global, and these are in some places like the interactive scripted commercial launch, where we're bringing that interactive graphic feature that can go right into open house in the local environment and bring that into commercial time. So that's something that we work with directly, all of our partners with, to create things in the global space. Some of the shopping experiences are what we can do in the commercial time, and we're working towards more doing it in the content time. So there's rules and regulations depending on which show you're in and where it is being distributed, but definitely looking at innovation from local to global.
Okay, wow. So so we'll start seeing these perhaps in NBCU local markets fairly soon.
Yeah.
Well, very interesting to see how expectations rise around this, and how viewers react to these kinds of ads, and how fundamental or not they end up reshaping the way we look at spot TV. So Colette Winn from NBCU, thank you so much for being with me here today and walking me through these very interesting new advertisements.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.